Hey everyone, Olivia here. And oh my goodness, do I have a story for you today. It's one of those moments where you just want to disappear into thin air. You know, one of those moments. It's all about how I sent a message to the wrong person, and it was so awkward. I was catching up with my best friend, Sarah, about, well, let's just say a slightly embarrassing dating story. I was being super dramatic, you know, lots of exclamation points, probably a few too many emojis in the actual message itself, the whole 9 yards. I thought I was sending it to Sarah, obviously. But guess what? I accidentally sent the whole saga to my grandmother. Can you even imagine? My cheeks still burn just thinking about it. I was mortified. I wanted to crawl under a rock and stay there forever. But, you know what? It's actually kind of funny now, looking back. The whole thing was such a mix of panic, embarrassment, and then this weird, hysterical laughter. It's definitely a story I won't be forgetting anytime soon, and I'm so excited to share it with all of you. So, let's begin our exciting journey of English improvement together. And remember, new videos are released daily, focusing on English speaking and listening skills to help you improve and enjoy your learning journey. Okay, so, grab a cuppa, or whatever you fancy, and settle in, because I have a story for you. A story about my very first time at a real, live theater play. And trust me, it's a good one. It wasn't just a play, you know? It was an experience. A whole thing. I must have been, maybe 10, 11 years old? Somewhere around there. Small town upbringing, not exactly a Broadway hotspot, let's just say that. So, the closest we got to theater was the annual school Christmas pageant, which, let's be honest, was more adorable chaos than high art. Anyway, my aunt, flamboyant Aunt Millie, bless her heart, she was visiting from the big city. And Aunt Millie, well, she was all about culture. Museums, galleries, opera, you name it. And this time, she'd brought tickets to a play. A real play in a real theater. I was equal parts excited and terrified. I mean, what even was a play? Beyond the school nativity, of course. The theater itself, oh my goodness. Even now, I can almost smell that unique theater smell. A mix of old velvet, dust, and something almost magical. It was this grand old building, all ornate carvings and red carpets. I remember feeling so small, like a little field mouse scurrying into a palace. The ceiling was, well, you had to crane your neck to see it. Chandeliers like giant sparkling spiders hung down, casting this warm, golden light. And the hush, remember those libraries where you could hear a pin drop? It was like that, but with an electric hum of anticipation underneath. We had these amazing seats, not too close, not too far, just perfect. Aunt Millie handed me a program, this glossy little booklet, and I clutched it like a lifeline. I remember trying to decipher the synopsis, but it was all these long words and character names I couldn't pronounce. So, I just stared at the pictures, trying to piece together what this A Midsummer Night's Dream thing was all about. Fairies? A donkey? I was intrigued, to say the least. The lights dimmed. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. My heart thumped in my chest like a trapped bird. Then, the curtain rose. And it was like stepping into another world. The stage was this lush, magical forest, bathed in soft moonlight. Fairies flitted about, their wings shimmering under the stage lights. The actors, they weren't just acting, you know? They were those characters. Their voices, their movements, their expressions, everything was so real. I'd never seen anything like it. I was completely mesmerized. I remember this one particular scene, where Puck, this mischievous little sprite, was causing all sorts of chaos. He was zipping around the stage, his laughter echoing through the theater. And he tripped. It wasn't part of the play, I could tell. He stumbled, almost fell, but then caught himself with this little, awkward hop. And for a split second, the magic broke. He looked out at the audience, a sheepish grin on his face, and then winked. Just a quick, little wink. And the audience, we erupted in laughter. It was this shared moment of humanness. This reminder that even in this fantastical world, real life, with its stumbles and blunders, could still peek through. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just people reciting lines. This was storytelling. Real, raw, human storytelling, brought to life in the most captivating way. I was hooked. Completely and utterly hooked. The rest of the play is a blur of laughter, gasps, and whispered, wow-s from Aunt Millie. I remember the costumes, so vibrant and detailed. The music, swelling and receding with the emotions of the characters. The way the actors could make you believe in magic, even just for a little while. After the final curtain call, the applause was deafening. I clapped until my hands were sore. I even stood up for a standing ovation, my first one ever. I felt exhilarated, like I'd been on this incredible journey, this emotional roller coaster. And I hadn't even left my seat. Walking out of the theater, the city lights seemed brighter, the air felt crisper. Everything felt different, like I was seeing the world with new eyes. Aunt Millie, bless her soul, she just smiled at me, this knowing smile, like she understood. We didn't talk much on the way home. We didn't need to. The magic of the play lingered between us, this shared experience that bonded us in a way I couldn't quite explain. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was buzzing with images from the play. Fairies, lovers, a donkey with a human head, it was all swirling around in my head. I remember grabbing a notebook and trying to write down everything I could remember. The dialogue, the costumes, the music, I wanted to capture it. All, to hold on to that magic for as long as I could. And you know what? That experience, that first taste of theatrical magic, it changed me. It sparked something in me. A love for stories, for performance, for the sheer power of human expression. It opened up a whole new world for me, a world of imagination and creativity. It led me to join the drama club in school, where, admittedly, my acting skills were questionable at best. It led me to devour plays and scripts like they were candy. And, yes, it led me to many, many more theater experiences, each one unique and unforgettable in its own way. But that first one, that first time at a theater play, it holds a special place in my heart. It was more than just a performance. It was an awakening, a realization of the power of art to transport us, to transform us, to connect us. It was, quite simply, magical. So, yeah, that's my story. My first time at a theater play. What about you? Do you have a similar memory? I'd love to hear it sometime. You know, over another cuppa, maybe? So, you know how sometimes you get this urge? This almost primal need to, I don't know, connect with something bigger than yourself? Well, that's what hit me last spring. Out of the blue. I was sitting at my kitchen table, staring out at my rather pathetic excuse for a backyard, mostly weeds and patchy grass. And I thought, I need a tree. It wasn't a logical thought. We're not exactly lumberjacks, me and my husband, Mark. Our combined gardening experience probably amounted to keeping a cactus alive for more than 6 months, which, by the way, we failed miserably at. But the idea of a tree, something solid and growing in our little patch of the world, just settled in me. I mentioned it to Mark that evening. He looked at me, over his glasses, you know, the way he does when I suggest something slightly unconventional. A tree? He asked, like I'd suggested we adopt a baby giraffe. Yeah, I said, all enthusiastic. A tree. Wouldn't it be lovely? We could sit under it in the summer, read books. I trailed off, envisioning myself in a sun-dappled haven, lemonade in hand, birds chirping, the whole shebang. He just chuckled and went back to reading his newspaper. But I knew, he was secretly on board. He's a softie, really. So, the next weekend, we found ourselves at the local nursery, completely overwhelmed by the sheer variety of trees. Who knew there were so many? We wandered around, blinking in the bright sunshine, surrounded by towering evergreens, delicate weeping willows, and trees with names I couldn't even pronounce. It was like stepping into a leafy, green cathedral. The air smelled of damp earth and something sweet, almost floral, that I couldn't quite place. We asked a guy with a kind face and dirt under his fingernails for advice. He listened patiently as I babbled about wanting a tree that provided shade, but not too much shade, and that wouldn't grow so tall it blocked our neighbor's view, but still had some presence. You know what I mean? I was probably making 0 sense. He smiled. Sounds like you're looking for a Japanese maple, he said. Beautiful foliage, manageable size, and they turn the most incredible shades of red and orange in the fall. He led us to a section filled with these delicate, almost ethereal trees. Their leaves were a vibrant green, some tinged with burgundy. I reached out and touched one. It felt soft, almost velvety. And that's when I saw it. A small, slightly lopsided maple, tucked away in the back. It wasn't the most impressive specimen, but there was something about it. It felt right. We bought it. Getting it home was another story. It involved a lot of awkward maneuvering, a few near misses with lampposts, and Mark muttering under his breath about how we should have hired a truck. But we managed. Now, the actual planting, well, let's just say it was an experience. We followed the instructions on the tag meticulously. We dug a hole, twice as wide as the root ball, just like it said. We mixed in compost and peat moss, like we were baking a cake. We gently placed the little tree in its new home. So far, so good. But then came the watering. The instructions said to water deeply. So, Mark, ever the literal one, grabbed the garden hose and proceeded to give that poor tree a bath of epic proportions. Water was everywhere. Mud splattered on our faces, our clothes were soaked, the entire backyard turned into a swamp. I'm pretty sure our neighbors were watching from behind their curtains, shaking their heads and wondering who these crazy people were. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Mark turned off the hose. We stood back, panting and covered in mud, surveying our handiwork. The little maple, now leaning precariously to one side, looked utterly bewildered. Well, I said, trying to sound optimistic. At least it's watered. Mark just groaned. Over the next few weeks, we watched that tree like hawks. Every morning, I'd rush outside, half expecting to find it withered and brown. But, miraculously, it survived. Slowly, tentatively, it started to put out new leaves. Tiny, vibrant green shoots, reaching for the sun. And you know what? It wasn't just the tree that was growing. We were growing too. We learned about pruning, mostly through trial and error, and a few panicked Google searches after Mark accidentally chopped off an entire branch. We learned about fertilizing, about mulching, about the delicate dance between too much water and not enough. We even started to identify the different birds that visited our little maple, their songs filling the air. There were setbacks, of course. One particularly hot summer, the leaves started to droop and turn brown. I almost cried. I thought we'd killed it. But then, after some frantic research and a lot of deep watering, this time, slightly less enthusiastically, it bounced back. Stronger than before. Now, a year later, our little lopsided maple is thriving. It's not huge, not yet, but it's ours. It's a haven for birds, a source of shade on hot afternoons, and a constant reminder of the simple joy of nurturing something and watching it grow. Sometimes, in the evenings, Mark and I sit on our patio, watching the sunset through its branches, listening to the rustle of its leaves. And we smile. It's funny, isn't it? How something as simple as planting a tree can change everything. It's not just about the tree itself. It's about the connection, the sense of accomplishment, the quiet satisfaction of watching life unfold in your own backyard. It's about slowing down, taking a breath, and appreciating the small miracles that happen every day, right under our noses. You know what I mean? It's about coming home. To ourselves, to each other, to this little patch of earth we call our own. And that, my friend, is a feeling worth more than all the perfectly manicured lawns in the world. Learning a new language can feel like climbing a mountain, but remember, the view from the top is incredible. Keep your curiosity louder than your fear. Think about it. Your curiosity is what drives you to explore this new language world, and it's so much more powerful than any hesitation you might feel. Let that curiosity lead you, and you'll be surprised at how far you can go. You've already started, and that's a huge step. You know what can be really helpful? Giving a step-by-step guide to a task you do every day, but in English. Imagine you're cooking your favorite meal. As you chop the vegetables, describe each step out loud. First, I'm peeling the onions. Now, I'm dicing them finely. It's such a simple way to practice, and you can do it while making breakfast, tidying up, or even during your commute. It makes practice feel so much more natural. Feeling tired of correcting yourself? I totally get it. It can be frustrating when you know what you want to say but stumble over the words. We all go through it. It's part of the process. Remember, every little correction is a step forward. You are literally building your language skills, brick by brick. And you know what? I was just thinking about this the other day while ordering coffee, and it made me wonder. What's the most useful phrase you've learned in English recently? I'd love to hear about it. It's always so inspiring to see what's clicking for other learners. Let's share in the comments below. Okay, so grab a cuppa, get comfy, because I have a story for you. A story about the time I got gloriously, fantastically lost. Like, really lost. And not in the wilderness, no bears or treacherous ravines, but in a bustling, bright, brand new city. You know, the kind of lost where you're surrounded by people, yet feel utterly alone. It's funny now, looking back, but at the time? Oh, honey, it was a whole roller coaster. It was in Florence, Italy. Picture this. Cobbled streets shimmering under a late afternoon sun, the air thick with the scent of pizza and something floral, maybe jasmine? I was there for a conference, all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to soak in the art, the culture, the gelato. The first few days were a whirlwind of presentations and networking, but I finally carved out an afternoon. For myself. Freedom. I decided to ditch the map, really experience the city. Just wander, follow my nose, see where the charming little alleys took me. Brilliant idea, right? Famous last words. I started off near the Duomo, that magnificent cathedral with Brunelleschi's dome. It's absolutely breathtaking, you have to see it to believe it. The sheer scale, the intricate details. I was craning my neck so much I almost got whiplash. Then I just drifted. Past bustling trattorias with waiters shouting orders, past little shops overflowing with leather goods and colorful scarves, past fountains gurgling merrily. I bought a tiny terracotta pot shaped like a little owl, just because it was adorable, and a scoop of pistachio gelato that tasted like pure heaven. I snapped photos, breathed in the energy, felt utterly alive. You know that feeling? Like you're exactly where you're supposed to be? Well, that feeling didn't last. The sun started to dip below the rooftops, casting long, dramatic shadows that made the already labyrinthine streets seem even more tangled. The happy buzz of the afternoon began to fade, replaced by something a little more subdued, a little more Italian rush hour? I suddenly realized I had absolutely no idea where I was. None. Zip. Zilch. My initial reaction was, honestly, a little thrill. A tiny adventure. I'll just retrace my steps, no big deal. Except, every little piazza looked the same. Every charming alleyway seemed familiar, yet not quite. I circled around and around, feeling a bit like a hamster in a very beautiful, very confusing maze. The pistachio gelato had long since melted, leaving a sticky residue on my fingers. My adorable little owl pot felt heavy in my bag. My phone, naturally, was almost dead. The romantic golden hour was rapidly transitioning into something a little more ominous. The streets, once bustling, were now emptying. Shopkeepers were pulling down their metal shutters, creating a clack-clack-clack symphony of impending closure. Panic, my friend, started to nibble at the edges of my adventurous spirit. Okay, maybe nibble is an understatement. It was more like a ravenous wolf tearing through my carefully constructed facade of nonchalance. I stopped a woman rushing by, clutching a baguette like it was the last one on earth. "Excuse me," I stammered in my extremely limited Italian, which basically consisted of ciao and grazie. I pointed vaguely in the direction I thought I'd come from. She looked at me, a mixture of pity and amusement in her eyes, and rattled off a stream of Italian that sounded like a beautiful operatic aria, but meant absolutely nothing to me. She shrugged, gestured dramatically in a completely different direction, and hurried off with her precious baguette. Right. My next attempt was a group of teenagers, glued to their phones. They barely glanced up, grunted something that sounded suspiciously like, duh, and continued their scrolling. Clearly, my distress was not Instagram-worthy. By this point, the streetlights were on, casting a yellowish glow that made everything look a little surreal. The shadows were deeper, the alleys narrower. I was officially lost. Properly, undeniably, lost. And the worst part? I started to feel silly. Stupid, even. Here I was, a grown woman, supposedly intelligent and resourceful, reduced to a bewildered, lost tourist in a city that millions navigate every day. I sank onto a cold stone step, feeling a wave of self-pity wash over me. My phone buzzed weakly with a low battery warning. Just great. And then, something shifted. The panic subsided, replaced by a strange sense of calm. I looked around. Really looked, and noticed the quiet beauty of the empty streets. The warm glow of the streetlights reflecting on the polished cobblestones. The intricate ironwork on the balconies overhead. The faint sound of music drifting from a nearby window. I took a deep breath, the cool night air filling my lungs. Maybe being lost wasn't so bad after all. Guess what happened next? A little old man, walking a tiny, fluffy dog, stopped in front of me. He looked at me with kind, crinkled eyes and, in broken English, asked if I was okay. He didn't rush me, didn't judge me. He just listened patiently as I, in my equally broken Italian and frantic hand gestures, tried to explain my predicament. He chuckled, a warm, rumbling sound, and pointed down the street. "Duomo," he said, his voice raspy but clear. "This way." He then proceeded to walk with me, his little dog trotting happily beside him, for what felt like miles but was probably only a few blocks, until the magnificent dome of the Duomo emerged from the shadows, bathed in the soft glow of the streetlights. It felt like seeing an old friend. He left me at the edge of the piazza, with a gentle pat on my hand and a twinkling smile. No dramatic pronouncements, no requests for payment, just simple, human kindness. It was the most beautiful thing. I finally found my way back to my hotel, exhausted but strangely exhilarated. I had been lost, truly lost, and in that lostness, I had found something unexpected. A reminder of the kindness of strangers, the beauty of the unexpected, the magic of simply being present. And you know what? I learned my way around Florence pretty darn well after that. Every time I passed that particular street, I remembered the little old man and his fluffy dog, and the quiet grace he showed a bewildered, lost tourist. It's a memory I'll cherish forever. So, that's my story. The time I got gloriously lost in Florence. It wasn't fun. At the time, not at all, but looking back? It's one of my favorite travel stories. It taught me a thing or two about letting go, about embracing the unknown, and about the surprising kindness you can find in the most unexpected places. And who knows, maybe one day, I'll be the little old lady helping a lost tourist find their way back to the Duomo. Wouldn't that be something? Okay, so, you know how sometimes you just crave something. Not just any kind of craving, but like a deep down, soul-yearning craving? That's what happened to me with salsa. I'm talking about real salsa, not the stuff you get in a jar at the supermarket. It all started, I think, with this amazing fish taco I had at this tiny little hole-in-the-wall place downtown. The fish was perfectly flaky, the tortillas warm and soft, but the salsa. Oh, the salsa. It was vibrant, fresh, a little bit spicy, with this incredible depth of flavor. I'm pretty sure I dreamt about that salsa for a week straight. And then, you know, it hit me. Why am I dreaming about salsa? Why don't I just make some? It seemed so obvious. I mean, how hard could it be, right? Famous last words, my friend, famous last words. So, I started my salsa quest with a trip to the farmer's market. It was a beautiful Saturday morning, the sun was just starting to peek through the trees, and the air smelled like fresh baked bread and ripe peaches. Heaven. I strolled through the stalls, taking in the vibrant colors of the produce. Plump, juicy tomatoes, red, yellow, even a few heirloom varieties with these gorgeous purple streaks. Bright green cilantro, its delicate leaves beckoning. Onions so crisp they practically shimmered in the sunlight. I felt like a kid in a candy store, honestly. I ended up buying way more than I needed, but hey, who can resist a beautiful farmer's market haul? Back in my kitchen, surrounded by my bounty, I felt a little intimidated, if I'm being honest. I'd never made salsa from scratch before. My usual culinary adventures involved, well, let's just say toast doesn't require a recipe. But I was determined. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through countless salsa recipes, each one claiming to be the best, the most authentic, the secret family recipe. It was overwhelming. Finally, I settled on one that seemed relatively simple, promising a classic restaurant-style salsa. Easy peasy, right? Wrong. The first hurdle? Chopping onions. Now, I consider myself a relatively competent person, but chopping onions? It's my culinary nemesis. My eyes started watering instantly, I could barely see what I was doing, and my chopping skills resembled something closer to, well, let's just say it wasn't pretty. The onion pieces were all different sizes, some diced, some practically pulverized, others looking suspiciously like large, teary chunks. Not exactly the picture of culinary perfection. Then came the tomatoes. The recipe called for blanching and peeling the tomatoes. Blanching? Peeling? Seriously? I felt like I was suddenly in a cooking competition I hadn't signed up for. So, there I was, awkwardly dropping tomatoes into boiling water, fishing them out with a slotted spoon, which I had to hunt for in the back of my drawer, and trying to peel off their skins, which, let me tell you, clung on for dear life. It was a messy, steamy, slightly comical disaster. But you know what? Even amidst the chaos, I was having fun. There was something so satisfying about transforming these raw ingredients into something new, something delicious. I felt connected to the food, to the process, in a way I never had before. Once the tomatoes were, finally, peeled and chopped, somewhat evenly, I added the mangled onions, the fragrant cilantro, which I generously over-chopped in a fit of post-onion trauma enthusiasm, some minced garlic, which I almost forgot, a squeeze of lime, a pinch of salt, and a healthy dose of jalapeno, because, well, I like it spicy. And then, the moment of truth. I dipped a tortilla chip into my creation, took a tentative bite, and it wasn't bad. Actually, it was pretty good. No, scratch that. It was amazing. The tomatoes were sweet and juicy, the onions, despite their uneven sizes, added a nice bite, the cilantro was bright and fresh, the garlic and lime gave it a zing, and the jalapeno provided just the right amount of heat. It wasn't exactly like the salsa from that little taco place, but it was close. Really close. And it was mine. I practically inhaled the entire bowl. I called my best friend, raving about my salsa triumph. I posted pictures on social media because, well, that's what you do when you achieve culinary greatness, right? I even felt a little smug, I'm not going to lie. But you know what the best part was? It wasn't just about the salsa itself. It was about the process, the journey. It was about overcoming my initial intimidation, embracing the mess, and realizing that cooking isn't about perfection, it's about passion, creativity, and a little bit of experimentation. It's about connecting with the food, with yourself, and, let's be honest, with the sheer joy of creating something delicious. And guess what? The next day, I made another batch. And another one after that. Each time, I experimented a little, tweaking the ingredients, adding a little more of this, a little less of that. I tried roasting the tomatoes, adding different kinds of peppers, even throwing in a pinch of smoked paprika, just to see what would happen. Some experiments were successful, others, not so much. Let's just say the mango salsa didn't quite work out as planned. But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? The learning, the experimenting, the discovering. And now, I'm not just dreaming about salsa, I'm making it. I'm the salsa queen of my kitchen. Okay, maybe not the queen, but definitely a salsa enthusiast. A salsa aficionado. Well, you get the idea. So, if there's one thing I learned from this whole salsa saga, it's this. Don't be afraid to try new things, even if you think you might mess up. Embrace the mess, enjoy the process, and celebrate the small victories. Because sometimes, the greatest adventures are found in the most unexpected places, like in a bowl of homemade salsa. And who knows, maybe one day, you'll even find yourself dreaming about it. You know what I mean? So, go on, get out there and make some salsa. You won't regret it. And if you do, well, at least you'll have a funny story to tell. And that, my friend, is always a good thing. Learning a new language, especially English, can feel like climbing a mountain, but remember to celebrate every word you learn. Think of it this way, each new word is like a step closer to the summit, a small victory in itself. And honestly, it feels like magic when you start connecting those words into sentences, then into conversations. It really boosts your confidence, bit by bit, and before you know it, you're fluent and comfortable. One fun and practical way to practice speaking every day is by describing YouTube videos aloud. You know, you could be watching a cooking video and narrating the chef's steps, or even commenting on a funny animal video while you're out for a walk. It's so simple and you can do it anywhere, anytime. It's like having an invisible conversation partner. Wanting to speak without thinking too much is something I think we all relate to, right? You understand everything perfectly in English, but when it's your turn to speak, suddenly your mind goes blank. It can be frustrating, I know, but it's perfectly normal. It's like trying to dance to a song you've only heard once. It takes practice to get those moves flowing smoothly. And you know what? Mistakes are part of the process. They're like little stepping stones. I remember once, I tried to order fish and chips at a restaurant, but instead, I accidentally asked for fish and chips. You will not believe what happened next. The waiter looked at me so confused. It was a bit embarrassing at the time, but looking back, it's a funny story. Have you ever made a mistake that turned into a funny story in English? I'd love to hear it in the comments below. Okay, so you have to hear about this. You know how I've always been obsessed with history? Like, obsessed. So, last fall, I finally did it. I finally visited Château de Chambord in the Loire Valley. You've probably seen pictures. It's that ridiculously magnificent French castle, the one that looks like it sprung from a fairy tale. And honestly, the pictures don't do it justice. Not even close. I'd planned this trip for months. Poring over blogs, travel guides, even watching documentaries about French Renaissance architecture, like, who even am I? But I wanted to soak it all in. I wanted to feel the history. So, picture this, crisp autumn air, leaves the color of burnt orange and gold carpeting the grounds, a slight chill that made me glad I'd packed my favorite oversized scarf. You know, that ridiculously cozy one? Yeah, that one. I took the train from Paris, and the journey itself was an experience. Rolling hills dotted with vineyards, charming little villages whizzing by. I kept pressing my face against the window like a little kid, completely mesmerized. I even tried to practice my pathetic French with the woman sitting across from me, which mostly consisted of me butchering bonjour and merci. She was sweet though, just smiled and handed me a little wrapped cookie. It was interesting, sort of like a shortbread, but with a hint of anise? I'm still not quite sure. Anyway, when the chateau finally came into view, whoa, seriously, my jaw dropped. It just loomed, this immense, almost unreal structure of pale stone against the clear blue sky. I swear, I actually gasped. The scale of it is just overwhelming in person. You see these intricate turrets and towers, hundreds of them, reaching up like, I don't know, like elegant fingers trying to grasp the clouds. It's breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. Walking through the grounds, I felt this strange sense of reverence, I guess? Like stepping back in time. You could almost hear the echoes of history whispering around you. Imagine, kings and queens, courtiers and artists, all walking these very same paths centuries ago. It's kind of mind-blowing, isn't it? The inside? Oh, the inside. A labyrinth of grand halls and intimate chambers, each with its own story to tell. The famous double helix staircase, inspired by Leonardo da Vinci, it's even more impressive in person. I spent ages just walking up and down, marveling at the design. You can ascend and descend without ever crossing paths with someone on the other staircase. It's brilliant. And the ceilings. Good heavens, the ceilings. Covered in intricate carvings, gilded details, and these massive, elaborate frescoes. I kept craning my neck so much I thought I might get a crick. One of the most memorable rooms was King Francis I's bedchamber. It was surprisingly modest. Not small, mind you, but compared to some of the other opulent rooms, it felt simpler, more personal. I could almost picture him there, poring over maps and state papers, plotting his next move. But you know what's funny? The thing that sticks with me the most wasn't the grandeur or the opulence. It was a tiny, almost hidden chapel tucked away in one of the towers. It was small and quiet, with stained glass windows casting colorful patterns on the stone floor. I sat there for a long time, just breathing in the silence. It felt peaceful, a moment of quiet reflection in the midst of all that history. It was a beautiful contrast. There were funny moments too, of course. Like when I totally mispronounced the name of some famous tapestry to one of the guides. My face turned the color of a ripe tomato. Or the time I almost tripped over a velvet rope and landed face first into a suit of armor. Graceful, I know. But hey, at least I provided some entertainment for the other tourists. I wandered through the vast kitchens, imagining the feasts that were once prepared there, the smells of roasting meats and baking bread filling the air. I peered into the enormous fireplaces, trying to picture the bustling activity. It was almost overwhelming to try and absorb it all. And then there were the gardens. Oh, the gardens. Formal French gardens. Stretching as far as the eye could see, meticulously manicured lawns, and fountains that danced in the sunlight. I strolled along the paths, breathing in the crisp autumn air, the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves. It was utterly serene. I even saw a deer darting through the trees. It was like a perfect little Disney moment. Honestly, I could have spent days there, exploring every nook and cranny. But as the sun started to set, casting long shadows across the grounds, I knew it was time to go. Walking back to the train station, I felt this strange mix of emotions. Exhilaration, awe, a touch of sadness that it was over, but also this deep sense of gratitude. I had finally experienced something I'd dreamed about for so long. And it was even more magical than I'd imagined. You know, it's funny. We often build things up so much in our minds, create these idealized versions of places or experiences, and then we're disappointed when reality doesn't quite match up. But with Chambord, it was the opposite. It exceeded my expectations in every way. It reminded me of the power of actually doing things, of pursuing those little dreams and passions we hold inside. It's so easy to get caught up in the everyday grind, to put off those, someday, adventures. But life is short, you know? We need to grab those moments, create those memories, and experience the beauty and wonder that the world has to offer. So, what are you waiting for? What's that one place you've always dreamed of visiting? That one thing you've always wanted to do? Go for it. Book that trip. Take that class. You won't regret it. Trust me, I'm already planning my next adventure. Maybe you'll join me? We could practice our terrible French together. What do you say? Okay, so, you know how sometimes you look back at a seemingly insignificant moment and realize it actually changed things for you? This story is kind of like that. It's about how I learned to play Carcassonne, this tile-laying board game. Sounds boring, right? Trust me, it wasn't. It was actually, well, it was a whole thing. See, I've never been a board game person. My family wasn't really into them. We were more of a stare out the window and ponder the meaning of life kind of family. Games, especially those involving strategy, just weren't on our radar. So, when my friend Sarah invited me over for a board game night, I was hesitant, to say the least. I pictured myself awkwardly shuffling cards, trying to understand incomprehensible rules, and generally feeling like a fish out of water. The smell of freshly baked cookies hit me as I walked in. Sarah, bless her soul, always bakes. Her apartment was warm and cozy, with fairy lights twinkling and a fire crackling in the fireplace. It smelled of cinnamon and vanilla, that comforting, homey scent that always made me feel instantly relaxed. There were a few other people there, people I knew vaguely from work or mutual friends. They were already gathered around a low table, a colorful mosaic of tiles spread out before them. It looked intricate. You made it. Sarah greeted me with a hug, her voice bright and cheerful. Come on, we're just setting up. We're playing Carcassonne. I smiled weakly, trying to project an air of confidence I definitely didn't feel. Sounds fun? Inside, my stomach did a little flip-flop. She handed me a mug of steaming hot chocolate, the kind with a swirl of whipped cream on top. It is. It's easy once you get the hang of it. Famous last words, right? So, there I was, perched on the edge of the sofa, clutching my mug like a lifeline, trying to absorb the rules Sarah was explaining. Honestly, it sounded like another language. Meeples? Roads? Cloisters? Farmers? What even were these things? I felt a little dizzy, like I was trying to catch falling snowflakes with chopsticks. You know that feeling? The others, though, they were clearly seasoned Carcassonne veterans. They were chatting excitedly, strategizing, throwing around terms like feature completion and majority control. I just nodded along, pretending I understood. The game began, and tiles were drawn, placed, and claimed with what I could only describe as terrifying efficiency. My turn came around, and I stared blankly at the tile in my hand. It depicted a road leading to a city, with a little field on the side. Where was I supposed to put this thing? Everything already looked so established. So, Sarah said gently, where do you think it goes? I felt everyone's eyes on me, and my cheeks flushed. I randomly placed the tile next to another one with a road, hoping for the best. Okay, Sarah said, her voice carefully neutral. Now, do you want to place a meeple? A meeple? I repeated dumbly. I picked up one of the little wooden figures, feeling utterly lost. It looked like a tiny, bewildered gingerbread man. Sure? I placed it on the road, because, well, why not? The game continued, and I slowly, painfully, started to grasp the basic concepts. I learned that roads scored points when completed, cities when closed off, monasteries when surrounded by tiles, and farmers, well, the farmers were a whole other level of complicated. I made mistakes. So many mistakes. I accidentally claimed Sarah's road, much to her amusement. I placed a meeple on a city that got promptly overtaken by someone else's, leaving my little wooden guy stranded and forlorn. I felt like I was constantly playing catch-up, stumbling around in the dark while everyone else danced gracefully in the spotlight. But something shifted as the game progressed. The initial panic subsided, replaced by a flicker of intrigue. I started to see the patterns, the possibilities. I realized that every tile placement, every meeple deployment, had consequences. It was like a puzzle, constantly evolving, constantly challenging me to think ahead. Guess what happened next? I actually started to enjoy myself. I started to get it. I even managed to complete a road and score a few points. It felt like a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. The feeling of accomplishment, of finally understanding the mechanics of the game, was surprisingly satisfying. It was like cracking a code, unlocking a secret language. The game ended, and, unsurprisingly, I came in last. But, honestly, I didn't even care. I had gone from feeling utterly bewildered to genuinely engaged, and that was a win in my book. The smell of cookies and hot chocolate lingered in the air, mingling with the sound of laughter and friendly banter. I felt a warmth spread through me, a sense of belonging, of having shared something special with these people. That night, something changed for me. I discovered the joy of board games, the thrill of strategic thinking, the satisfaction of building something, even if it was just a tiny medieval kingdom made of cardboard tiles. I discovered a whole new world of entertainment that I had previously dismissed as, well, nerdy. And you know what? I embraced it. After that, I started playing Carcassonne regularly with Sarah and other friends. I even bought my own copy of the game, with all its expansions and intricate little pieces. I devoured online tutorials, studied different strategies, and even started teaching other newbies how to play. I went from being the clueless outsider to the slightly less clueless enthusiast. Looking back, I'm grateful for that evening, for Sarah's patience and encouragement, for the warm, welcoming atmosphere, and even for my initial struggles. Because it wasn't just about learning a board game. It was about overcoming my apprehension, about stepping outside my comfort zone, and about discovering a new passion, a new way to connect with people. It was about realizing that sometimes, the things we think we'll dislike the most can end up surprising us, enriching our lives in ways we never expected. So, yeah, that's my Carcassonne story. It's a story about meeples and monasteries, about roads and rivers, about strategy and surprise, and, ultimately, about how a simple board game taught me so much more than just how to play. You know what I mean? It's funny how life works sometimes, isn't it? The smallest things can have the biggest impact. And who knew, maybe, just maybe, I'm a board game person after all. Hey everyone, thank you so much for hanging out with me throughout this video. I really appreciate you spending some time here and connecting with me. You know, before we go, I was just thinking, have you picked a new place to explore nearby? It's always so lovely to hear what everyone is thinking about, and sharing your plans is a fantastic way to practice putting your thoughts into words, plus you might even inspire someone else to try a new adventure. It would be awesome to hear about your plans down in the comments. See you tomorrow, and remember to take care and keep practicing, you're doing great.